G'day, guys, and you're welcome to My Drunk Philosophy. I'm Googs. Afghanistan is the word on everyone's lips at the moment. Afghanistan. What's happened in Afghanistan? Some people have likened it to Vietnam. The way the America pulled out, and now everybody's, Taliban have come in and everything's gone to hell. Some people are saying that's Joe Biden's fault, that's Donald Trump's fault. I have a different take, or perhaps a more in-depth take on this, because I have been following this issue since, funnily enough, 2001, and I'm old enough to have been impacted by 2001. That's 9/11, of course, where Al-Qaeda attacked America, the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and they had a plane, I believe, heading towards Washington, D.C., which the brave people on board fought against those who hijacked the plane, and the plane crashed. Of course, those people unfortunately died, but brave souls nonetheless. So 4 planes. It was always the reaction that I was against, because I knew there was going to be a reaction even then. Because it's America. America was the gung-ho, high school jock type, right? And they got punched in the nose, and I've said this on prior videos, and they got punched in the nose, essentially, by this small nerdy kid. And what was their reaction? Their reaction was to turn around and napalm this kid, basically beat the shit out of this kid, put him down. This is going to go down in history as some of the greatest, if not the single greatest, civilizational failure of the West. And unfortunately, the whole West is tarred in this, okay? Because America was the leader of the free world. Ultimately, this falls down on the leadership of one person. One person. George W. Bush. It's him. It's his fucking fault. The people that were there at the time, myself included, when he said, we're going to go after Osama bin Laden, and to do so, we're going to take over Afghanistan. Bad intelligence, we're going to fuck up Iraq. We're all looking, the people of those of us who understood what was going on here went, okay, no. This is a gross overreaction. So America, in the case of Afghanistan, went in. Now, there could have been multiple ways of dealing with this, okay? They're after one guy. Well, who's that one guy with? Apparently he was hanging out with the Taliban. We'll get rid of the Taliban, and we'll help this country by burning the only major money-making crop the people of Afghanistan had. Poppies, opium poppies. Just burn it. Get rid of all their money. All their money-making prospects. We're going to be friends with these guys by going in there with guns to the tribal war chiefs and warlords of Afghanistan, of which there were plenty, and there still are, and the Northern Alliance, who they had a brief dalliance with in the early 80s when the Russians were trying to take Afghanistan at the end of the Cold War, and went in there with guns, basically saying to these people, you will help us find Osama bin Laden, and if you don't, fuck you. We're America, don't you know? What they should have done from the beginning was, if they were going to get rid of the Taliban, great. Bring in the big pharma, and I know people don't like big pharma, and I'm not a fan of corporations, believe you me. Bring them in and say, hey, we've got these pharmaceutical companies here who are willing to buy your poppies, buy your opium poppies, and they will give you money. And you can make legal money, and suddenly there's international trade happening. International trade. There's money flowing through the system. You could have then given people grants to help build better farms whilst getting the Taliban out. You've given the people hope. You've given the people reason to believe in you. You've given a reason for the people to actually respect and like you. You're helping them. You're giving them a hand up, not a handout, and certainly not a gun to the head, and you're going to have freedom our way. But that's not what happened. So for 20 years, and multiples of American governments, we have been, and I say we because Australia was involved, And I'll get to that a little bit later because John Howard said something absolutely ridiculous yesterday, our former Prime Minister. And for what? For what? America pulls out. Taliban come in. Game over. Sharia is back in town, baby. Those women who knew a brief moment of being without a burqa suddenly have the entire niqab and the whole lot. Again. Okay? Yay for women's rights, huh? Why did this happen? You might say, well, Afghanistan. Joe Biden came out and said Afghanistan's got a great army and a good air force. They'll be able to push back the Taliban. Here's the thing. When the Americans set up the army and the air force, the logistics for it, the mechanics, the technicians, the people who understood strategy, and the people who were training the Afghani army went at the same time. So the planes went, if the planes broke down, that was it. They were done. No one to fix them. Same with the tanks. Who's going to resupply the ammunition? Well, the Americans weren't there anymore to resupply. They were dead in the water. The Afghani government had no help from anyone else. It was just the Yanks. The Yanks had set it up that way. Sorry, America, this is actually on you. Unlike Vietnam, which everyone's comparing it to, where it was public opinion turned against the war to the point where they had no choice. They had to get out. And I mean, it was essentially done anyway. This one, if they had have left a logistical team there, some technicians and enough troops, let's just say 500 troops to protect and to train to the point where the Afghanis were able to do this for themselves, fine. But if you've got 300,000 troops that are very badly trained, that have basically got no way of fixing their armaments, and an air force is absolutely useless. A modern air force is useless if you don't have people who understand modern technology. And of course, the Afghanis, you say, 20 years is enough time. 20 years. How long did it take us to go from a single prop aircraft to a modern F-18 Mark III? How many years? 80. 80 years. Maybe sorry, it's mid-2000s. So 90 years to go from a single prop to a modern aircraft. And we're asking people who don't even know what that the fuck is to understand that in 20. People who are going from an almost nomadic goat herder style mentality, and I hate to say that, but it's true, to suddenly expecting them to be university qualified, brilliant engineers. It's not going to happen. So when America pulled everybody out, when Biden went, we're just getting out of here. The army, what army? The Air Force meant nothing. The Afghanis literally went, we're fucked. Oh, come in, Mr. Taliban. Those who didn't tried desperately to get on some big Galaxy American aircraft and falling off the sides, the poor bastards, almost in a mockery of that poor man who flung himself out of the building of Tower 2 during the 9/11 attack. The failure was in not understanding culture. The failure was in not doing the job properly for 20 years. 20 years. How many thousands of soldiers died? For what? For what? This outcome didn't have to be inevitable. A small contingent force of 500 is probably too small. Let's say 1,000 well-armed troops, Marines, and engineers to get this going. How about getting in some educators? Educators from parts of the world, all over the world, who could speak the same language, who could start setting up a proper education system. Was that mentioned anywhere? No. That's because it wasn't funded. The education system was not funded. But that is going to be the core. That is the core of the Western world. It's the core of any civilization. Is your education. Where was it? It wasn't there. Let's be honest. Afghanistan was a mistake to start with. It was a military exercise that ended up in failure because we did not help the Afghani people help themselves. We were there because George W. Bush had a hard-on for we're going to spread peace throughout the world. Team America. That movie, by the way, is more relevant today than it was when it first came out. My condolences to all the military people who lost lives unnecessarily. American, English, Australian troops. Families that broke up. It's to the Afghani people. You call them barbarians if you want, that's fine. If you want to call ill-educated people through no fault of their own barbarians. And then John Howard comes out. Okay, John Howard comes out. And he says, oh, it's a terrible thing that America pulled out of Afghanistan. And look what's happened. And it's terrible. Isn't it horrible? It should never have been this way. I hope you realise that every single Australian soldier who served in Afghanistan, you've just dissed them, Mr. Howard. You've just dissed them because you're the one who sent our boys into Afghanistan, Mr. Howard. You, Mr. Howard, Tony Blair, and George W. Bush should right now be in the goddamn Hague for starting this conflict. The human misery and suffering in the name of freedom. You had no intention to free these people. You wanted to capture them. This is almost like a proto-attempt at American America and its allies version of colonialism. Because as soon as we're gone, all hell breaks loose. The bad guys come back in and we're actually worse off because now the bad guys have got all the weaponry because the Americans left their weapons there and their armaments and their fucking tanks and their fucking planes. I'm laughing, but I ain't laughing kindly. This was horrendous. If we have one thing to learn from all of this, next time a little pissant, wannabe bunch of cunts, terrorists come in and bomb us, let's do the right thing this time. Let's show the world who we are, that we are greater than these little pissant terrorists, that they're not going to have us in fear, that we're going to stand up and say, yeah, is that what you got? Okay, cool. Okay, we'll just get the CIA, ASIO, and all these other groups. We'll just meander around and we'll find it. We'll find the people who caused this problem. But them only. No more of this. Let's go into a culture we don't understand, a people we can't speak their language, and a people who have fuck all to do with the original problem causes. Because every time we've done it, we have fucking sucked at it. I'm Nathan Googs Fletcher. This is my drunk philosophy. Be good. Be safe. Don't be evil. And I'll catch you on the next one. Hooroo.